Hi, today we are going to discuss about pregnancy in end-stage renal disease or dialysis patient. So in this class, we are going to discuss about sexual dysfunction and incidence of pregnancy in dialysis patients, renal impairment effect on dialysis pregnancy outcome, and pre-pregnancy counseling, dialysis prescription, what are the changes we want to make, and general care, when to terminate pregnancy and pregnancy diagnosis, and pregnancy in dialysis, when we want to do or how many times we want to do dialysis, and lactations. So let's discuss about reproductive and sexual dysfunction in uremic patient. So uremic toxins will decrease kidney prolactin clearance in advanced chronic kidney diseases, and abnormality in endometrial morphology, and low level of estrogen and progesterone, and anovulations even with preserved menstrual cycle, dysregulation of the menstrual cycles leading to amenorrhea by the time of the patients reached end stage renal disease. Actually, they do get pregnant. So less than 1% to 7% of incidence of pregnancy in women on hemodialysis has been documented. So we'll go through this data, effect of renal function on pregnancy outcome. If the serum creatinine values go high, that will affect on the pregnancy outcomes. It's like, as we know, on dialysis, we have more creatinine value that will affect fetal growth restriction, preterm delivery, preeclampsia, and perinatal death. So now we know the effect of uremic toxin on pregnancy outcome of our dialysis patients. So we have to give counseling. So counseling is about the possibility of pregnancy should occur in all women of reproductive age, those who are undergoing hemodialysis. So regarding the contraceptive method, which method to use? So oral contraceptive is safe in most dialysis patients, but those drugs should be avoided in the patient with lupus and patient with problem of clotting vascular access. Intrauterine devices may be associated with increased bleeding because of heparin uses in hemodialysis. Commonly used barrier method of contraception are safe. So you should also give counseling about transplantation. So transplantation options should be reviewed with women while they are on dialysis before attempting conceptions because of better pregnancy outcome. So all we know about the importance of teamwork. So in dialysis prescription also it's on a teamwork based. So it should include patient family, nephrologist, nutritionist, neonatologist, all together work and make a good dialysis prescription. Dialysis prescriptions include duration, frequency, and efficacy, dialysis potassium, dialysis bicarbonate, calcium, inorganic phosphorus, and PTH balance, dialysis sodium, heparinization, and also blood flow, and whether we want to use high flux dialyzer or low flux dialyzer, and AVF cannulation, dialysis decubitus, and minerals and water soluble vitamins, and fetal assessment, and UFN dry weight assessment also. So regarding duration, frequency, and efficacy, National Kidney Foundation (KIDOKI) have guidelines. So during pregnancy, women with end-stage renal kidney disease should receive frequent long hemodialysis either in center or at home, depending on their convenience. 36 hours or more of HD weekly for pregnant women with established end-stage renal disease without residual renal function. Same this study also said that increased clearance of uremic toxins by intensified hemodialysis improves pregnancy outcome. So look at this data. As the hours per week increases, that will reflect on the live birth rate. So in this, if we go to 37 to 56 hours per week, for 85% of live birth rate is there. As we discuss, if we increase our hemodialysis hours in a week, that will reflect the primary outcome as a live birth rate, and secondary outcome includes gestational age and birth weight also. So regarding the blood urea nitrogen, so provision of intensified hemodialysis offers improved management of uremic toxins and blood volume which may decrease the incidence of polyhydramnios and as a result decrease the likelihood of premature delivery and its complication. So we should keep our target blood urea nitrogen is less than 50 mg per deciliter or even less than 45 mg per deciliter. So this data is showing blood urea nitrogen and the percentage of polyhydramnios. So if we keep very less blood urea nitrogen, that will reduce the polyhydramnios. So what is polyhydramnios? Is where there is too much accumulation of amniotic fluid around the baby during pregnancy. And you know what is amniotic fluid? Amniotic fluid is the fluid that surrounds your baby in the womb. Next is dialysate potassium. The potassium concentration in dialysate must also be adjusted to reflect the more intensive HD regimen. So usually with the concentration of 3 milliequivalent per liter, we will advise. So regarding the dialysate bicarbonate, to ensure the physiological expression of respiratory alkalosis that is associated with pregnancy, dialysate bicarbonate usually reduced to 25 milliequivalent per liter to maintain serum bicarbonate in the usual pregnancy range of 18 to 22 millimoles per liter. So in normal pregnancy, the physiology that will increase the recirculation of progesterone, the relative hyperventilation that will cause a mild respiratory alkalosis. It will cause subsequent reduction in serum bicarbonate of approximately 4 milliequivalent per liter. So regarding dialysate phosphate, so intensive dialysis and increased phosphate requirement for the fetal bone formation will decrease serum phosphate level in pregnant women, those who are undergoing dialysis. So the hypophosphatemia, the phosphate level need to be monitored frequently and stop phosphate binders, and increase dialysate phosphate and supplement with oral phosphate. So regarding dialysate calcium, should increase the dialysate calcium to 1.75 to 2.5 millimoles per liter and oral calcium is 1.5 to 2, and you should take care about hypercalcemia, and pre and post dialysis calcium level should be measured to avoid hypercalcemia and hypocalcemia. So regarding vitamin D, so vitamin D should be monitored monthly and supplemented only if it's low. Some studies have suggested that the human placenta is a source of 125 dihydroxycalcitriol, that is vitamin. This placental contribution could be a major significant in pregnant women in whom endogenous renal 125 dihydroxycalcitriol production is deficient. However, it is not clear whether this placental production has any significant clinical impact during pregnancy. Regarding dialysate sodium, so reduction in serum sodium during pregnancy necessitates a concomitant reduction in dialysis sodium concentration to around 135 millimoles per liter. So regarding anticoagulation, we also think about whether we want to increase or decrease. So dialysis heparin requirement are often increased because of the hypercoagulable state of pregnancy. This is not the situation for every pregnant woman and is assessed by monitoring dialysis adequacy and dialyzer clotting. And heparinization should be minimal to prevent obstetric bleeding. Heparinization is a safe and effective anticoagulation therapy that prevents circuit clotting. So regarding the blood flow, at each dialysis session, blood flow gradually increased over first 30 minutes of HD from 180 to 300 milliliter. So you should start slowly. So using dialyzer, whether high flux or low flux, it depends on the body surface area. Consider recirculation and adequacy while cannulation, access cannulation. So avoid buttonhole technique and use rope ladder technique. Next we can discuss about dialysis decubitus. This is nothing but the lay down position. So dialysis in left lateral decubitus position is good. So regarding mineral and water soluble vitamins, so give at increased dose because they can be partially removed by intensive dialysis. And regarding the folic acid, at a higher dose of 5 mg daily of non-dialysis. is recommended. So you can go through these tables. Next we want to discuss about fetal assessment when we want to do. So serious ultrasound examination are important for the early detection of fetal growth restrictions and assessment of fetal heart rate, particularly during the last portion of the dialysis session. In dialysis prescription, ultrafiltration dry weight assessment, you should consider all the aspects. So normally the body weight gain in pregnant women, body weight gain is 1 to 2 kilogram during the first 3 months and then 0.5 kg a week during the rest of the pregnancy. So you should consider this point while keeping ultrafiltration. The clinical signs of hypervolemia. So blood pressure out of target as usual and respiratory compromise. Edema is an unhelpful sign in pregnancy. You can assess hematocrit and albumin level. So measure of hematocrit and albumin at the initial first trimester visit. A rise in either values strongly suggests intravascular volume contraction. Opposite is not true. So after dialysis prescriptions, we can go through a general care. So hypertension, target blood pressure is 110 to 140 systolic and 80 to 90 mmHg is diastolic. This range of treatment is not based on the solid pregnancy outcome data, but is thought to be a range that reduces maternal risk for severe hypertension while providing sufficient systemic BP to maintain placental perfusion. So use of diuretic may cause a reduction in the maternal plasma volume or intraplacental or renal perfusion will decrease. So regarding anemia management, you should maintain the hemoglobin 10 to 11 gram per deciliter. Erythropoiesis stimulating agents at doses higher than needed before. Doubling of the baseline EPO requirement is not infrequent. Intravenous iron as required. Currently, the US FDA classifies only iron sucrose as a pregnancy category B drugs. Yes, it is as we mentioned, like so every pregnant woman 5 mg daily on dialysis. Use of aspirin, we can use 75 to 150 mg per day. If the pregnant woman had a previous history of early onset severe preeclampsia or fetal loss, or serum creatinine is above 1.5 mg per deciliter. The aim of the aspirin is for the prevention of preeclampsia or perinatal death. Let's discuss about when to terminate pregnancy. So these are the indication of deliveries in women with preeclampsia or chronic kidney disease. So it's like inability to control blood pressure or decreasing the glomerular filtration rate, and neurological abnormalities such as eclampsia, headache with accompanying class and hyperflexia, etc., worsening thrombocytopenia, increased liver transaminase level, and failure of fetal growth. These are the indications of when to terminate pregnancy. Diagnosing pregnancy in dialysis patient is difficult because amenorrhea is frequent in CKD 5th stage, and nausea, vomiting, fatigue, and soft signs of pregnancy are often attributed to the kidney conditions, volume overload, erythropoietin deficiency, and all. So because of beta HCG is removed by the kidney and beta HCG levels are higher at each stage of gestation than in women with normal renal function. Borderline positive HCG level can be seen in unpregnant CKD 5th stage woman. So high degree of suspicion in the requirement to make a diagnosis of pregnancy. The stage of gestation must be determined by ultrasound. So next is like when we'll get pregnancy in dialysis patient and how many times they can get pregnancy in dialysis. So most pregnancy occurs during first few years on the dialysis, but conception rate as functions of times on the dialysis have not been determined. The pregnancy has occurs in women who have been on dialysis for as long as 20 years. Repeated pregnancy in women who become pregnant on dialysis are not uncommon. In the 318, women who become pregnancy are recorded by the National Registry of Pregnancy in Dialysis Patients (NPTR). 8 women become pregnant twice, and 8 women becomes pregnant thrice, and 1 woman conceived 4 times. The last one is lactations. So some studies are here. We can easily to know when the pregnant woman can do breastfeeding. So specimens of the breast milk and blood were collected in regular interval before and after HD from a 39-year-old woman starting on the day 10 postpartum. So samples were analyzed for electrolyte retention, solutes, nutrients, and other laboratory measurements. Breast milk samples from low-risk mother matched for the postpartum age were used as controlled. So look at this. In these diagrams, we can see urea and creatinine is high in pre-HD. So post-HD is low. So this is a study about electrolyte and calcium phosphate, and so serum sodium is high in post-HD, and same like chloride also high in post-HD, and there is not like a little decrease in post-HD potassium. And regarding phosphate is seems like both are same, and calcium also seems like a same pre and post. So significant variation in breast milk composition between pre and post HD samples suggests that breastfeeding might be preferably preferred after dialysis treatment. Findings indicate that breastfeeding can be considered a viable option for a newborn of mother on dialysis. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned. More points we'll discuss on next episode.